Welcome to another installment of the Crazy Person Podcast. I am Holden Hacker, and today I'm guiding you through a world hidden behind silence, secrecy, and reinforced steel. The technologies governments refuse to let the public have. Technology, in its most transformative form, is never born in public view. It is not built in garages, nor in open university labs. The most advanced systems on Earth live and die behind doors that never open, doors buried beneath deserts, embedded inside government towers, or sealed beneath layers of misdirection and classification. And you will never see what lies behind them because the core philosophy, every state from democratic to authoritarian, is the same. If technology is too advanced, the public must not have access to it. Not because it is dangerous, not because it is unstable, but because once the future becomes accessible, it cannot be contained. And containment is the last source of power governments possess. This is not conspiracy. It is protocol, what the United States government calls the Invention Secrecy Act of 1951, which states the Commissioner of the United States Patent and Trademark Office can, upon recommendation from a defense agency such as the Department of Defense or the Department of Energy, order that an invention be kept secret and a patent withheld if its public disclosure might be detrimental to national security. In other words, anything that changes the world too much, anything that reduces dependence, anything that weakens government necessity. These technologies are not destroyed, they are absorbed, isolated, and consumed by the state. The public receives only the diluted remnants, safe, slow, and insufficient. This is segment 1, the door that doesn't open, and behind it is an entire future you were never meant to inherit. The first filter, plausible deniability. Every suppressed technology passes through a 3-stage filtration system. The first stage is denial, but not the theatrical kind. This denial is quiet, bureaucratic, and nearly invisible. Governments identify promising research early using embedded liaisons, and universities, corporate R&D teams, and private labs. When a discovery appears too efficient, too revolutionary, too disruptive, its context is suffocated. Patents are bought quietly through shell companies. Researchers are redirected into closed-door programs. Promising labs disappear behind non-disclosure rules. Breakthroughs are buried in paperwork until they lose momentum. Nothing dramatic happens. No raids, no threats. Instead, innovation dies from lack of oxygen. The public never even realizes something was taken from them. The second filter, national security. When subtle suppression is no longer enough, the second filter activates national security classification. The phrase ends discussion instantly. Entire research fields vanish behind it. Under this designation, universities lose access, inventors lose rights, companies lose autonomy, journalists lose trails, the public loses awareness. Life-changing medical therapies, energy systems, transportation breakthroughs, and computing advancements disappear into the military-industrial labyrinth. With one classification stamp, the future becomes property of the state. The third filter, confinement. Once a suppressed technology enters the third filter, it no longer belongs to the civilian world at all. Here, inside underground labs and off-record installations, the technology is stabilized, refined, militarized, repurposed, or permanently shelved. Civilian society becomes a curated museum of outdated tools while classified programs operate decades ahead. Progress hasn't stopped. It's simply no longer public. The cost of progress that never arrives. Imagine breakthroughs capable of reshaping civilization, a limitless energy source, a universal cure, materials stronger than steel and lighter than air, computation capable of predicting global crises before they emerge. Now imagine watching each miracle vanish behind steel doors, reduced to a file number and a signature you're forbidden to question. This isn't science fiction. This is standard operating procedure. We do not lack the technology to transform the world. We lack permission, and the gatekeepers have no intention of opening the door. Segment 2 is a catalog of absences could feasibly exist, but are hidden away in the darkest corners of government bunkers. A record of possible inventions that didn't fail, but were removed. Some technologies vanish because they are flawed, others because the world isn't ready, but the most remarkable disappear because they work too well. These cases are documented, traceable, and real, yet stripped of context so the public never realizes what was taken. These are possible technologies that died before they even lived. Case 1: The Impossible Battery. Now take your mind back to 1981. A researcher named Paul Montague demonstrated a battery with energy density still ahead of modern lithium cells, stable, rechargeable, non-toxic, and inexplicably efficient. Within 6 months, his lab was purchased by a defense-linked shell corporation. Patents were reclassified. Demonstrations ceased. His name vanished from scientific literature. The official reason? Safety concerns. Evidence? None. Had it reached the market, portable electronics, electric vehicles, and renewable energy infrastructure would have accelerated by decades. Instead, advancement slowed to a convenient crawl. Case 2. I think the room temperature superconductor. Imagine. It's the early 2000s. A university team reported evidence of near ambient superconductivity, a result that would eliminate energy loss across power grids, transportation, and computing. Days later, the study was withdrawn. The researchers were absorbed into private entities. Funding evaporated. The public explanation cited flawed methodology. Internal memos stated the real reason: civilian implications exceeded acceptable thresholds. Some discoveries are forbidden, not because they fail, but because they succeed. Case 3: The Cure That Vanished. Imagine, from 1999 to 2003, an independent researcher developed a protein folding therapy showing dramatic reversal of degenerative disease symptoms. Then everything stopped. A clinical hold was issued without public justification. The intellectual funding disappeared overnight. Property was acquired by a federal medical arm. The researcher left public science. The therapy never reappeared. Its disappearance coincided with classified research investments using similar biochemical mechanisms. The cure was not flawed, it was unprofitable. Case 4: The Quiet FTL Program. Now take your mind back to the years of 1963 between 1979. Multiple aerospace contractors quietly received grants for research labeled nonlinear inertia reduction, asymmetric field propulsion, and quantum vacuum manipulation. Terminology absent in civilian aerospace of that era. Whether the work succeeded is unknown. What matters is that it happened entirely in secret. What the public calls impossible may simply be inaccessible, walled off behind classification. Case 5: The Forbidden Material. Imagine, it's 1987. A contractor filed a patent for a composite stronger than steel, lighter than plastic, more heat resistant than ceramics. Within 24 hours, it was flagged as a national security asset. Within a week, the division responsible was absorbed into a classified program. The material never reached civilian markets. Only the military reaped its benefits. Imagine the consequences: lighter structures, ultra-efficient vehicles, infrastructure lasting centuries. But such power shifts global influence, and influence is never shared. And finally, Case 6: The Predictive AI. Now take yourself back to 2012. A university team built an algorithm capable of predicting election outcomes, market behavior, and geopolitical instability with unprecedented accuracy. The reaction was immediate. Classification under special national interest, research halted, the team reassigned under permanent NDAs. The algorithm wasn't destroyed, it was compartmentalized. The public will never learn how predictable society truly is. The question no one thinks to ask: when technology disappears, the public assumes the science failed, the market rejected it, or the risks were too high. Governments rely on these assumptions. They make suppression effortless, invisible. A future withheld is a future the public never mourns. This is the graveyard, silent, expanding, and far larger than anyone imagines. Governments do not fear progress because it is dangerous. They fear it because the future does not require them. Their authority is built on scarcity, dependency, control, and predictable change. A single transformative technology can dissolve all of that in an instant. Reason 1: loss of control. Governments manage scarcity of energy, health, opportunity, stability, and information. A sufficiently advanced technology eliminates scarcity entirely. Limitless power, perfect medicine, automation without bounds, information that flows freely, uncontrollably. When scarcity disappears, dependence disappears, and dependence is the foundation of governance. Remove it, and the entire structure collapses. Reason 2: economic disruption. The global economy functions on slow, predictable innovation, incremental upgrades, planned obsolescence, controlled progress. One breakthrough can erase entire sectors: energy, medicine, manufacturing, agriculture, transportation. Trillions vanish. Stability fractures, power shifts. Governments slow progress, not to stop it, but to keep it manageable, to prevent the economic shock that could destabilize their authority. Reason 3: geopolitical leverage. Advanced technology is global leverage. The nation that controls it shapes the world. If a transformative invention becomes public, every nation gains access. Advantage disappears. Competition resets. So breakthroughs are buried, absorbed, and developed in secret while the public hears nothing. Progress becomes a weapon, and weapons are never shared. Reason 4: social destabilization. Society appears stable, but it rests on fragile routines. Radical technology destroys familiarity. Cures that end chronic illness. Automation replacing nearly all labor. Materials overturning construction norms. Energy making old industries obsolete. Intelligent systems surpassing leaders. These create unemployment spikes, economic collapse, political instability, and cultural shock. To prevent chaos, governments throttle acceleration. Reason 5: the myth of readiness. Behind closed doors, officials claim humanity isn't ready. That change must be slow, gradual, controlled. But this is not belief. It is justification. The truth? Governments fear a future that does not obey hierarchy, borders, or command. So they chain it. Reason 6: surveillance of possibility. Governments do not only respond to technology, they monitor its birth. Every patent, experiment, and breakthrough is evaluated. How disruptive? How destabilizing? Who might access it? Can it be controlled? This preemptive filtering ensures no invention escapes containment. The future is edited before it arrives. The reality no one acknowledges. Progress is not a staircase. It is a mountain range, some peaks visible, others hidden, some deliberately buried. Technologies are not suppressed out of malice, but because they threaten established power. Stability demands stagnation. The future cannot coexist with current hierarchies. The invisible hand. Suppression is subtle, executed through funding barriers, patents, classifications, NDAs, and redirected research. A scientific narrative sculpted to look natural. Innovation slowed until the public forgets what's missing. The world moves only as fast as governments permit, and the absence of possibility becomes a silent void. Segment 4 concerns the infrastructure, the machinery that allows governments, especially the United States, to suppress, redirect, or bury advanced technology before it reaches the public. Most people imagine secrecy as a locked file cabinet or a closed-door meeting. In reality, suppression is industrial, logistical, systemic. It requires money, personnel, facilities, and tools built solely to keep the future out of public hands. This is not speculation. It comes from procurement logs, budget footnotes, fragmented declassified policies, and interviews with individuals who never spoke again. We begin with the backbone, the acquisition pipeline. When a technology is deemed transformative beyond acceptable limits, a three-stage extraction protocol activates. Stage 1: observation. government liaisons embedded in research institutions, corporate R&D, and private foundations report any anomaly, unexpected energy output, unusual materials, and breakthrough computation long before results go public. Stage 2. Engagement. Officials approach the inventor on board with funding offers or special opportunities. If cooperation is refused, the tone changes. Acquisition becomes mandatory. Stage 3. Acquisition. The methods are administrative and silent. Government buyouts, security classification orders, temporary holds that never lift, patent purchases through shell entities, regulatory pressure. The effect is the same. The technology disappears from public record. Often, so does its creator. The facilities where suppression becomes production. After acquisition, technologies are moved into a tiered network of classified sites, national lab annexes with obscured purposes, hangars on restricted Air Force ranges, deep underground mechanical labs, privately operated aerospace facilities, offshore stations labeled as logistic hubs. Here, technology is not invented. It is refined, militarized, or permanently buried. The public sees only the diluted remnants decades later. The people who keep the doors closed. Most employees believe they serve national security. Only a small subset knows the suppressive mission. They are selected for minimal public presence, few personal ties, high compliance, and compartmentalization. Their titles sound harmless. Stability Liaison, Risk Auditor, Civilian Impact Specialists, but their purpose is absolute control. They prevent escape, they erase traces. The black budget. Hundreds of billions flow yearly into unacknowledged programs. Public labels, defense spending, intelligence operations, research grants conceal the truth. The black budget funds classified labs, acquisition teams, patent suppression, legal containment, narrative control, dormant storage for destabilizing systems, distributed and compartmentalized. It is designed so no component knows the full picture. The public knows nothing. The control of scientific narrative. Suppression rarely uses force. It uses perception. Research flagged for removal is quietly marginalized through peer review gatekeeping, funding restrictions, institutional pressure. Breakthroughs are labeled impossible, unsafe, impractical, or fraudulent. Once consensus turns against them, no enforcement is needed. Ridicule is stronger than regulation. The result, a future in suspended animation. Acquisition, containment, black budgets, narrative control, all serve a single purpose: to ensure the future arrives slowly, predictably, and under centralized authority. Governments do not suppress technology to protect the public, they suppress it to protect themselves. Unlimited possibility threatens every nation state's final religion, control. Segment 5 addresses a forbidden question. What technologies are governments suppressing right now? Not rumors, not mythology, but systems consistently indicated through classified procurement anomalies, sudden scientist disappearances, black budget spikes, and discrepancies between what is theoretically possible and what the public is allowed to see. Across multiple nations, the same 5 categories appear. Category 1. Energy systems that erase scarcity. Energy is control. Remove scarcity, and centralized authority dissolves. Suppressed developments include ultra-dense batteries far beyond lithium-ion limits, vehicles running for weeks, grids stored for months. High-efficiency microreactors, capable of powering entire communities without a centralized grid. Zero-loss superconducting transmission, wiping out the inefficiencies that energy markets depend on. Vacuum energy prototypes, referenced only in redacted reports. These systems would make societies nearly self-sufficient. Energy dependence, one of the most strongest tools of control, would vanish. Category 2. Category 2. Medical breakthroughs that end dependence. Modern medicine treats, it does not liberate. Suppressed breakthroughs include protein folding therapies reversing degenerative disease, radical tissue regeneration that left public trials and became classified after early success, cellular longevity modulation, preserving cells far beyond normal lifespan, neural disease reversal systems capable of halting Alzheimer's like decline. True cures would collapse pharmaceutical, insurance, and hospital economies. Independence from the medical systems is unacceptable to those who govern. Category 3. Materials that make infrastructure obsolete. Classified engineering already uses materials that public never sees. Ultralight, ultra-strong composites beyond anything commercially known. Room temperature superconducting structures. Radiation-absorbing polymers that neutralize extreme environments. Self-repairing synthetic materials capable of autonomous maintenance. These would eliminate the need for conventional construction and long-term industrial labor. Entire sectors of the global economy would disappear. Category 4. Computational systems beyond human limitation. Public AI is intentionally primitive. Classified systems include predictive governance models forecasting geopolitical and economic outcomes with precision, full logistical automation capable of replacing supply chains overnight, advanced quantum platforms solving complex problems instantly, autonomous strategic analysis engines outperforming human leadership. Governments fear not rogue AI, but systems that make authority itself obsolete. Category 5. Transportation that breaks geography. Control of borders and supply chains is control of civilization. Suppressed systems include inertia-reducing propulsion, enabling physical behaviors considered impossible publicly, high-efficiency maglev microtransit that would erase dependence on roads and fuel, vertical aerospace platforms requiring no fossil fuels, patented, then classified, ultralight composites allowing non-traditional aircraft far beyond public design. These technologies would decentralize travel, logistics, and power. No government can allow movement it cannot regulate. The common thread. Every suppressed technology removes dependence on energy grids, on medicine, on infrastructure, on transportation, on government systems. A world with these breakthroughs is independent, uncontrollable, and for governments, irrelevance is fatal. The hidden consequences. Suppression is not passive. Scientists vanish. Research is redirected. Public imagination is engineered downward. Civilization stagnates without realizing it. The future exists, just not for the public. The silent paradox. These technologies are maybe real, maybe proven, maybe perfected, and withheld not because humanity is unready, but because governments cannot survive a world that no longer needs them. Segment 5 ends with this truth. Freedom, efficiency, and progress are threats. Segment 6 will examine the society that grows out of engineered stagnation and the human cost of living in a deliberately limited world. Segment 6 examines the world we inhabit, a society that appears modern yet runs on technologies that should have been obsolete decades ago. Innovation is simulated, progress is staged, and most of what we consider advanced is simply optimized legacy infrastructure presented as new. Our buildings rely on outdated materials, our energy grids follow mid-century logic, our medicine manages decline instead of curing disease. Our transportation remains chained to fossil-era limitations. We do not live in the future. We live inside a carefully maintained illusion of it. The world we have versus the world we should already live in. If suppressed technologies were released, society could transform almost at once. Cities rebuilt swiftly and efficiently, near zero cost energy, decentralized and independent. Diseases eliminated rather than treated. Travel unconstrained by fuel, distance, or borders. Work optional, not mandatory. Poverty obsolete. Global mobility frictionless. These outcomes are possible. They already exist in classified sectors, but governments see them as destabilizing, a direct threat to economic hierarchy and centralized authority. So we remain in a stalled world, engineered to move slowly, the economy of artificial scarcity. Look at your world. Housing overpriced, energy volatile, medicine limited and expensive, transport congested and inefficient. These are not failures. They are structures, systems built to preserve scarcity. Scarcity ensures dependence. Dependence ensures obedience. Obedience sustains authority. The economy you live in is not naturally constrained. It is deliberately restricted to maintain control. Culture and stasis. Technological stagnation produces cultural stagnation. Music and media recycle endlessly. Entertainment copies itself. Political discourse loops predictably. Design trends cycle instead of evolve. Culture cannot transform without new technological foundations. When the foundation is frozen, culture becomes repetitive. Not because creativity fails, but because possibility is withheld. The psychology of a delayed future. Humans sense the gap between what is and what should be. This produces rising anxiety, generational disillusionment, distrust in institutions, chronic fatigue, and cultural dissatisfaction. People internalize systemic limitation as personal failure. They believe the world's stagnation is natural rather than engineered. They experience a quiet despair, the sense of living below their potential. A future that exists but remains inaccessible creates psychological erosion across society. The perpetual present. Civilization is kept in a state where tomorrow never truly arrives. Change is incremental, education outdated, industries slow by design, medicine treats instead of cures, governance presents disruption rather than solving problems. The present becomes permanent and progress is rationed. The human cost. The true damage is personal. Dreams shrink, ambition becomes cautious, creativity dims. Hope is restricted to small, manageable expectations. Generations adapt to limitation, mistaking it for reality. Human potential is systemically reduced, not by inability, but by design. The invisible system. Modern society functions as a closed ecosystem. Infrastructure maintained just enough to appear modern, innovation slowed through bureaucratic control, culture stagnated by technological constraint, the public unaware of the ceiling above their heads. This is not coincidence. It is civilizational engineering. Segment 6 conclusion. We live in a world that looks advanced, but is built on outdated machines. A world that promises progress, but offers only incremental change. A world where potential is minimized for the sake of stability. Segment 7 will confront the final question. What happens when suppression fails, when the future forces its way into a society built to avoid it? The final segment asks the last question. What becomes of a civilization whose future is permanently withheld? Not apocalypse, decay. A society denied progress does not collapse dramatically. It erodes slowly, invisibly. The slow collapse. In a suppressed world, infrastructure functions until accumulated wear overtakes repair. Energy grids run until inefficiency triggers failure. Medicine holds until disease exceeds capacity. Economies appear stable until stagnation becomes permanent. Social structures endure until despair dissolves cohesion. Nothing breaks at once, everything withers. True resilience requires renewal without innovation. Fragility compounds, and eventually something gives. The consequence of suppression. Governments suppress advanced technology to maintain control, but over time, suppression destabilizes the very system it seeks to protect. Innovation is oxygen. Without it, technological suffocation. Demand outpaces capability, systems grow brittle. Economic rigidity. Industries cannibalize themselves to survive. Cultural exhaustion. Creativity stagnates into repetition. Institutional decay. Trust erodes. Legitimacy fades. Civilization stagnation. Humanity exists but does not evolve. Suppression preserves power but guarantees irrelevance. The psychology of a denied future. A future withheld shapes the mind. Anticipation becomes resignation. Hope shrinks. Creativity becomes ritual. Education teaches stability, not curiosity. Generations accept limitation as natural. People live under invisible ceilings, structural, systemic, omnipresent. They sense something missing, possibility itself. This is not human failure. It is engineered constraint, the inevitability of the future. Even buried, the future persists. Innovation continues behind locked doors. Knowledge accumulates in secret. Progress advances for the few, not the many. But when suppressed technologies finally surface, change arrives all at once. Systems calibrated for stagnation cannot absorb acceleration. Economies, governments, and social orders fracture. Civilization breaks, not from the technology itself, but from the shock of its sudden release. The magnitude of change is catastrophic only because it was delayed. The silent tragedy. The tragedy is not the secrecy, but the loss. Lives never live to their potential. Generations confined to manufactured limitation. Societies that endure instead of advance. A world repeating the same patterns while possibilities gather in the dark. Suppression leaves no evidence, only absence. A hollow space where the future should be. The final truth. Governments suppress technology, not because the future is dangerous, but because the present relies on control. Dependence is profitable. Scarcity ensures obedience. Hierarchies endure only when possibilities are limited. The future is inevitable. It can only be delayed, locked, rationed, contained. But delay is temporary. Time is relentless. Eventually, the suppressed will surface, and when it does, civilization will face a transformation it cannot contain. Until then, we remain trapped in a curated present, in a society built on outdated machines, waiting for a world that will never arrive until it arrives unbidden all at once. This has been episode 5 of the Crazy Person Podcast, Government Gatekeepers of Advanced Technology, a record of a future stolen before it could ever be lived. The broadcast ends here, but the truth does not.